This is a First Defense weather alert. This is a First Defense weather alert.
And a good Saturday afternoon to you. I'm forecaster Jackson Hickey in the First Defense Weather Center. The National Weather Service in Buffalo has issued a severe thunderstorm warning now for portions of Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, Erie, and Warren counties. And that warning is for wind gusts potentially up to 70 miles per hour. This is not something that we normally see in April in western New York, but, it's here now. It is storm season, of course, so you got to be prepared for it. So this warning goes until 2:30 p.m., so for 45 minutes this warning will go to, although I'm sure they may expand that further to the east. So this line of storms that you can see here on the radar, this has a history of producing some damage in portions of Ohio and Pennsylvania. We have reports already of some, pretty significant tree damage, especially in parts of, like I said, eastern Ohio and northwestern Pennsylvania. So with winds up to 70 mile per hour, you want to treat this as if it's a tornado warning almost. Because 70 mile per hour straight line winds are going to do the same sort of damage that a tornado would do, especially to trees. We have a lot of moisture in the soil now from that rain we had yesterday. So trees are going to be easy to uproot with winds up to 70 miles per hour. The storms may not look really impressive on radar, but that doesn't change the fact that there are these very strong winds. You'll have to bear with me. I also have to man the weather computer here today. This is not something that we expected to be so severe. You may have seen, if you follow the First Defense weather page, the Storm Prediction Center upgraded us to a enhanced risk. That's a level 3 out of 5 risk for severe weather for today. I'm going to go ahead and show you the Warren Sky Cam, if you bear with me for just a moment. Here's a look at the Warren Sky Cam, and you can see it's already shaken quite a bit. It's not just winds from these severe thunderstorms that we're expecting to see, but also some just winds throughout the day, gusts up to, potentially 40, 50 miles per hour. So there's that to worry about as well. But you can see on the Skycam there some of those dark clouds over the hill. That's the Warren Skycam from our friends at Erie News Now. We'll move back to the radar now. And you can see still this line, they have severe thunderstorm warnings across pretty much this entire line, and you can't blame them. When you have winds, again, up to 70 mile per hour up and down this entire line that you see here. So even if these storms may not look impressive, you don't see those heavy rainfall rates or hail. Again, it doesn't change the fact that there's certainly some strong winds, and we know that based on reports that we've gotten already. I want to take a closer look at some of the details in this warning. So this is also a fast-moving line of storms. The Weather Service saying this line is moving northeast at 80 miles per hour. That's really fast storm motion, especially for this time of year. Again, we don't normally see these kind of storms this earlier in the year. Normally our big storm season is in the summer, but it certainly does happen for sure. And we're fortunate that, today we're not under a big tornado risk. I know a lot of people might be worried about that. You probably saw some of the damage from some of the tornadoes yesterday in the Midwest. We will not have anything like that. But 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, that still causes quite a bit of damage. So again, you want to treat this as if it's a tornado warning almost. So if you're outside, get inside for sure. If you're in a vehicle, here's the view of the Findlay Lake Skycam. You can see a lot of those dark clouds moving in. As that line is now moving into western Chautauqua County, again moving northeast at 80 miles per hour. So again, treat this as if it is a tornado warning. There is not a tornado with it. But here, thank you. Here's a look at Lakeside Park in Mayville. Look at the camera shaking around there. And that's not only from the winds from this line, but also just the winds ahead of it too. So in the next probably 5-10 minutes, we're going to see that start to ramp up even more, again, as this line moves through. So once again, I want to ease any fears that anybody might have. There is not a tornado with this. However, you want to take the same precautions that you would with a tornado. So you want to, again, if you're outside, get inside. If you're in a vehicle, you want to pull off, probably get inside a sturdy structure if you can, just for the next 10-15 minutes to ride out the storm, and then after that you'll be okay. And I want to note, this applies right now for Chautauqua County. Cattaraugus County, you guys still have a little bit to prepare. You guys still have probably about 20 minutes until this line moves in. This line you can see just south of Westfield, actually. We might have a little bit of hail. If you give me a moment, I've got to man the weather computer today. If I can go ahead and inspect this. Here you can see some potential small hail, not anything significant, but still the potential for a little bit of hail. But again, the biggest threat is going to be the wind gusts associated with this line. When you see storms organize into a line like this, that's a telltale sign of some pretty strong winds. So, you can expect quite a bit of tree damage for sure, trees coming down. We have reports already of large trees that have come down in areas in northwest Pennsylvania and northeast Ohio. So, if you're near any trees, you want to watch out for that. Even live trees, we have reports of large trees that are healthy that are coming down in winds like this. So again, if you're outside in Chautauqua County or western Cattaraugus County right now, you want to get inside for sure. In a vehicle, once again, you'll want to pull off the road, try to get inside of a structure just for the next 10-15 minutes, because you don't want to be in a car in wind like this. This is not your normal windstorm. This is going to be pretty strong, and the National Weather Service has reflected that in their warning. In this warning, they have included a tag on it. It's for, if I can get it up here, you can see other side. You can see the thunderstorm damage threat considerable. That's not something that we normally see around here, and again, that's due to the wind gusts associated with this, which again you can see up there, up to 70 miles an hour at the bottom of that window there. So, this is not something that you want to mess with. A lot of people really underestimate the power of wind, but wind is certainly not something to play around with. And a bit of hail again too. You can see just south of Westfield here, where you see those reds over Lake Erie too. That indicates that we could be seeing some small hail. Just another reason to not be outside. You don't want to be getting hit by ice pellets, of course. But the wind for sure. Big issue. I'm gonna go. You'll have to again bear with me. I'm the only one in here now. Looking at the National Weather Service mentioning again that area just south of Westfield. I'll zoom into that just a bit. You can see where it's kind of bowing out. That could indicate some stronger winds developing. So you folks, especially from central Chautauqua County, areas near Chautauqua and north and east of there, you're going to want to pay attention to this, especially as we could be seeing some very, very strong winds coming out of this segment, especially as you can see it bowing out there. Let's get a storm track on this. Give me just a moment. And again, these are moving about 80 miles an hour. So here you can see, timing it out, the village of Fredonia, you guys have not even 10 minutes left. You're going to want to get inside. Likely you'll want to get away from windows as well. Again, you want to treat this as if it's a tornado warning. It's not a tornado, but the winds that we're seeing out of this are going to do damage like it's a tornado. So again, get inside a structure. Away from windows is the best. Interior room would be good for the next 10 to 15 minutes. If you're in a car, you want to pull off the road, get into a structure, and away from windows, because these are not winds that you want to mess around with. Some more areas on the screen there. Dunkirk, also in the next 10 or so minutes, you're going to feel the brunt of this, and then it'll move into portions of eastern Chautauqua and western Cattaraugus and Erie counties in the next probably 20 minutes or so. And there's no indication that this is going to slow down either. All signs point to this line even gathering strength as it moves into a more favorable environment. We saw the sun out for most of the day today. That really heated up the environment and gave these storms some juice to feed off of and gain the strength, and that's why we're seeing this now producing such severe winds, really severe wind. We don't normally see this around here again. Give me just a moment. Yeah, so the National Weather Service, in the warning, this severe thunderstorm warning that you see, that's the yellow polygon behind me. They are really asking people to seek shelter now in a sturdy structure. Again, you need to act as if this is a tornado. It's not a tornado, but again, the winds, when you get 70 mile an hour winds out of this, it's no different than having a 70 mile per hour wind from a tornado. So, again, get inside a sturdy structure and, just wait this out. It's not going to last a long time. This will, last maybe 5 or 10 minutes before it moves through, and then you'll be fine to come back out. But, it's very fast moving. The National Weather Service in their warning saying this storm is moving 80 miles per hour to the east-northeast. Okay, that's highway speeds. That's over highway speeds, I should say. That's highway speeds if you're speeding on the highway. You might think you have a lot of time before this gets to you, but you do not. Be ready to quickly get inside and away from windows, as this really is strengthening. Wow, look at this bow feature here. What that is essentially is winds out of the west are pushing this band. They're so strong that they are pushing that band and creating that bowing feature. So that's an indication of, again, up to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and that's not something that you want to mess with. That'll, damage mobile homes especially, and trees. Again, we have reports. I'll go look at these reports again. We have reports of lots of large and healthy trees that are, coming down because of these winds. Normally you'd only see small branches or dead trees that come down, but this is not struggling to take down just about any trees. So keep that in mind as this line moves through. And then, of course, there's also a special marine warning with this. Let's see if we can get that up. You can see that's the other orange polygon right along the Lake Erie shoreline. So obviously, if you're out on the water, or you know anyone out on the water, get to safe harbor immediately, because this will not struggle to overturn boats. And that's again, not something that we normally see, that winds this strong. Let's go ahead and take a wider look at this. You can see the strongest area for sure is up here in Chautauqua County. Warren County, I don't want to forget about you. You are also in this warning with that considerable tag there. So you have the same issue, but you've got a little more time in the city of Warren to prepare for this. As you can see, it's just about to start moving into western Warren County. In Chautauqua County, though, you can see this is really intensified over the past few moments. Again, like I said, this is moving into a more favorable environment for storm development, so it's not a surprise to see some of these brighter colors showing up. And that's not necessarily an indication of any stronger winds. We're still going to see 70-mile-an-hour winds out of this. What it could indicate is potentially some hail with it, though. So again, if you have any reports for us that you can give us safely, if you're out ahead of this, we don't want you to give us any reports. But if you're if this line is past you and you have any reports, use that hashtag MyLocalWX, and you can send a photo as well. That's on Twitter and Facebook. Again, only if you can do so safely. Okay. We don't want people going out ahead of this to try to give us reports. That's just stupidity at that point. There's no nicer way for me to put it, because again, this line, the impacts are going to be similar to that of a weak tornado. 70-mile-per-hour winds, that would be easily tornado force winds. That would be EF0 winds. That's not something to mess with. That might sound low, especially when you consider some of the stuff that we saw yesterday farther to our west. But again, this is not something to mess with. This is not, it's not weak by any means. These are strong winds that you're going to want to get inside to avoid. Again, if you're in a car or even a mobile home, you may want to consider getting into a more that's Lakeside Park, I believe. I'm not sure if that's frozen there, but that camera, when we looked at it about 10 minutes ago, it was shaking around quite a bit. There it is. Yeah, you can see rain falling there with those raindrops on the camera. I believe the worst of the winds have passed Mayville now, yeah. You can see it's moved mostly into central Chautauqua County and soon into eastern Chautauqua County. So places like Mayville, anywhere west of Mayville, you are likely out of the worst of the winds now. Westfield as well, you guys probably just took one of the worst impacts from that, but now it's going to be moving into Dunkirk. You can see that really dark red spot about to move into Dunkirk. That could be some pretty decent hail in conjunction with the winds as well. So Dunkirk, Fredonia, the areas of Arkwright as well, you're going to be next to be impacted by this. Silver Creek, you're probably in the next 5 or so minutes. Again, we're expecting up to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts for this. That's not something to mess with. That's something that will cause damage for sure. So again, if you're in a car, you want to get off the road. If you're in a mobile home even, you may want to consider getting more substantial shelter. And if you're in shelter, get away from windows. This kind of wind and debris that it could carry with it, that'll easily break some windows, and you don't want to be around a window that's broken. Windows are really dangerous in situations like these. So again, get into a more substantial structure and move away from windows. You want to treat this as if it could be, or not if it could be, it's not a tornado, but you want to treat this as if it's a weak tornado, because that's the kind of damage that it will cause. 70-mile-per-hour winds, again, it's going to impact the area as if it's a weak tornado. Not devastating damage, but it's going to be strong damage for sure. So things like even large trees coming down, especially with the amount of moisture that we have in the soil. We had the we had the rain last night, so the ground is wet, and when wind comes through, the trees are not gonna stand as well against that. Here's the camera from Randolph. I believe that camera is pointing west, so you can see those dark clouds there getting ready to move into Cattaraugus County in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So you guys in western Cattaraugus County, especially northwest Cattaraugus County, you folks in Gowanda, and then southern Erie County as well, you're going to want to start getting ready for this. Again, get out of a vehicle if you're on the roads. Get out of your car, get into a substantial structure, and get away from windows, because you don't want to be out on the roads when something like this is happening. Not only is it going to be hard to control your vehicle in winds like this, but we could be seeing trees coming down and some debris being blown around by this as well. So that is, again, looking west from the Randolph Peaches and Cream Skycam, where this line of storms is getting ready to move in. Probably about 10 minutes until we see it move into Randolph. You can see the radar data is lagging behind just a little bit, but Dunkirk, Fredonia, Sheridan, that's where we're being impacted. We're having the worst impacts, I should say, at the moment. And then, again, I don't want to forget about you folks down in Warren County. You guys in the city of Warren, you've also got about 10 minutes until this moves in, but you can see much of the same from it, up to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Again, not something to mess with, especially if you're in your car. I can't say it enough. If you're in your car ahead of this line in eastern Chautauqua County or portions of Warren County, you want to get out of your vehicle, okay? Go into a substantial shelter and get away from windows. Again, if you're just joining us, this line is producing winds that are similar to the force of a tornado, okay? It's not a tornado, but the wind up to 70 mile per hour, it doesn't matter whether or not it's a tornado, it's going to cause damage, especially to trees, power lines. I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing some power outages, especially in northern Chautauqua County. If any of you guys in the newsroom have any info on that, definitely pass it along to me. Just looking for any more information we have. Bear with me for a second. Again, I'm the only one in here today. We were not expecting something like this. You can see now some pinks and purples showing up around Dunkirk. That could indicate potentially some large hail, likely about half an inch in diameter. That might not sound like a lot, but that is, that doesn't feel good if that hits you. So, again, get inside for sure. Just wait this storm out. It's not going to last long, and you'll be okay if you just go inside, again, away from windows, and you want to treat this as if it were a tornado. Once again, This is not a tornado. I want to, you know, dispel any fears there may be, because I know a lot of you probably saw the, you know, horrific damage we saw in the Midwest yesterday. We're not going to see anything like that. But again, these storms are still dangerous with wind, and I don't want to forget about the lightning. Actually, speaking of lightning, I want to see if we can get lightning up here, if we can get any of that data. Let's see. No, we do not have lightning. Okay, that's all right. If we could, in the control room, if you don't mind, if we could pull up one of the sky cams, I'd like to see if we can maybe look at, okay, here's the Jamestown sky cam, thank you very much. Looking at, again, Jamestown, you're just about to feel the effects of this in the next little bit. Bear with me here. Let's see here. Again, you folks in Jamestown, you're just about to feel this as this line starts to move in. You can see the trees shaking there. There's someone on the street down there. You don't want to be like him. Again, everyone ahead of this line, you want to be inside and treat this as if it's a tornado, because the winds coming out of this are not something to mess with, okay? So don't be like that guy on his skateboard. Here's Chautauqua Lake. Thank you for that. You can see very choppy now as that line has moved over Chautauqua Lake, and those winds are really going to kick up that water there on Chautauqua Lake. And I don't want to ignore the fact that we are having a lot of rainfall with it. You can see reduced visibility here. Here's another look at Chautauqua Lake. You can really see those waves moving out there now. Just showing you how strong those winds really are as they move through the area. We're starting to get hit in Jamestown now. I can feel the building getting hit by it. It is loud, so you folks in Jamestown and just east, you're going to want to start getting ready for this now. There's our camera outside of our studio on 3rd Street in Jamestown. You can see those low-level clouds moving pretty fast there as the wind's being kicked out of this. Again, up to 70 miles per hour for parts of this storm. We can go back to radar now. Thank you for showing some of those views. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take a look at Warren, if we could, in just a couple minutes, as that's going to be moving into portions of eastern Warren County very soon. But we are now in eastern Chautauqua County with this line. Jamestown, you're probably feeling it right now. I know we're feeling it over here in the studio. You know, it looks to me like portions of southern Chautauqua County, you might be getting less affected by this, more like 60-mile-an-hour gusts, but you can see those brighter colors, and again, this bowing look here, that's, you know, we only see that maybe every couple of years. I don't like to use historical analogs for this because every storm is different, but that's something I saw April 14th in 2019. I can't recall seeing another thing like that in recent years, but that's, again, an indication of some really strong winds. And this pink, this little patch of pink may indicate some larger hail developing. Could be seeing maybe one of those updrafts developing and producing some larger hail. And we are getting some really significant winds now at the studio. If you give me just a moment, I'm going to go see. Yeah, we're getting some pretty significant winds here now in the city. So again, you folks in and east of Jamestown, if you're in your car, get off the roads, go in a substantial shelter, and you want to move away from windows as well. The trees and the lights out there just, you know, whipping around from this wind. And those low-level clouds, again, you can see are moving pretty quick as well, associated with these winds. And again, this cluster of storms is moving northeast at 65 miles per hour now. It's slowed down just a bit. That's not necessarily a good thing. That means we could endure winds for a bit longer, and that's not something that we want to deal with. But really, again, I'm listening to the winds outside our studio now. I'm gonna go take another look. Bear with me here. I'm sorry, I'm the only one in the studio right now, but I want to go take a look at this. Looks to me like, in between the buildings, winds died down just a bit, but that 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gust is not an over-exaggeration for sure. That's no joke. Again, trees and power lines are going to be the big targets of this wind. They'll easily come down, especially, again, in this Boeing segment that you see right here, moving into now the Gowanda and southern Erie County area. So you folks watching in Gowanda and areas like Angola and Collins, you're going to want to find some substantial shelter right now. Again, you don't want to be outside in winds like this. Again, get out of your car if you're in a car. Just go inside a business, a gas station or something, and ride the storm out for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then you'll be fine. Some thunder shaking the city now as well. So lightning, of course, not as big of an issue as we would typically see with this, but still an issue nonetheless. So really, get inside. Don't make yourself a target for lightning. But again, the biggest threat from this wind, it's going to be moving into Cattaraugus County now. And actually the city of Warren, it looks like we could be seeing some impacts from this momentarily. Let me pan the radar down just a bit. You can see the city of Warren just about to get hit by some heavier rain and that wind as well. I want to take a bit of a zoom out and look. I mean, the whole line, you can see those orange polygons up and down all the way through Pennsylvania as well. So this whole line is, producing some winds that we don't normally see around here. And they're not something that you want to mess with. Again, up to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, okay? I can't stress this enough. If you're in a car, you don't want to be driving in this, all right? This is the kind of stuff that it's hard to control your vehicle in. And if there's trees coming down, power lines coming down, and debris being, flung around by it, you don't want to be driving in this for sure. I want to go take a look at the weather computer here. We might be seeing, and you might be seeing it as well, perhaps the actual precipitation from this breaking up a little bit. That does not mean that the wind is dying down. The wind is still going to definitely be an issue, no matter what you see happening on the radar here. One thing we might be able to get a good idea if we look at velocity here. Yeah, so this is the velocity view on a radar. We don't normally show this to you on air. Normally we use this to track any rotation in storms. We're not going to see any rotation from these storms further east into central New York and eastern New York. They may, but we're just going to see the wind. You can see this gradient of dark greens right next to the bright greens. That's showing us that these storms are really packing a punch with the wind. Let's see if we can get a better view of this. Yeah, there you can really see it, that red there. This is from a different view. That red is showing some really, really high winds. Let's see if we can get a reading on that. You'll understand the radar beam is really high up, so we're not going to get very accurate data there, but you can, on the velocity, you can really see that those excuse me, those storms are really packing a punch with the wind, no doubt. Again, if it's safe to do so, feel free to send us a report with your location and a picture. Only if it's safe to do so. I want to stress, if you're out ahead of this or being impacted by it right now, don't try to send us in a report. Don't try to take video of it. We only want you to send us a report if it's a damage photo or maybe hail that fell. We don't want to see a picture of wind knocking down trees. We don't want to see that. We want you to be safe. But if you're out behind this line, if you're in places like western Chautauqua County where you've already been impacted by this, feel free to send in damage photos and videos. I want to go see if we have any pictures. The best way to reach out to us, First Defense Weather page on Facebook, as well as the Western New York News Now page on Facebook as well. No photos yet. We do have a lot of reports of power out. That's not a surprise to me. Thank you for those of you sending in those reports. And those of you out ahead of this line, you can probably expect your power to go out as this line begins to move through. Again, you can still see this Boeing feature now moving into the city of, or the village of Gowanda, I should say. So you guys in northwest Cattaraugus County, you're going to be the next to be impacted. Places like Randolph, Salamanca, you're not too far away from this as well, so you should start preparing. Jamestown, we're almost out of this, as you can see. We really did not get the worst of this down here in Jamestown. Most of it was more so northern Chautauqua County when we saw that Boeing feature on it. But still, everyone in these warnings can expect 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. This warning is about to expire. I have no doubt that the Weather Service will probably extend this warning because really these are some dangerous winds that we're seeing. Some strong wording in the warning from the Weather Service. They're urging people, seek shelter now, get out of a car, get off the road and go into a sturdy building, get away from windows, okay? A sturdy building could be anything, any business. Go into a gas station. They will welcome you in, and get away from windows just to, ride this out for the next 5-10 minutes as this moves through. It's a fast-moving line of storms, so it's not going to last long when it hits you. But when it does hit you, it'll pack a punch, and you want to be ready. Don't be caught outside or in your car when this moves through. Give me just a minute. I want to control room, if possible, if you could bring up the Jamestown camera. As this system is starting to move through Jamestown, if you don't mind. If not, that's okay. All right, that's fine. You folks in Jamestown, you probably just got the worst wind that you'll get in quite a while. Worst wind of the day for sure, and lots of rain falling as well. Excuse me. Jamestown. Excuse me, sorry. Jamestown, you're really out of the worst of it now as we start to move our attention towards parts of Cattaraugus County and eastern Warren County. I don't want to forget about you guys in the Warren area. And if we're not talking about your area, then that's a good thing, for sure. So really, anywhere west of the Chautauqua-Cattaraugus County line, you've pretty much cleared out of the worst of the wind. You should still obviously stay inside. You can see some of these higher returns on the reflectivity here. We could have some lightning, and that's not something you want to mess with either. It's not just wind, it's the lightning too. lightning is one of the leading killers in weather, so that's not something you want to mess with. We have a severe thunderstorm warning now for McKean County. Let's see. They have kept that considerable tag, as you can see. I'll move out of the way. You can see on that window there. That's for the warning in McKean County, although it's the same impacts that you're going to see in Cattaraugus and eastern Warren counties now as that line moves through. And it's not stopping. You can see actually in the most recent couple of frames, this Boeing feature is still here, and the cells in this line are starting to reorganize just a bit. And that's to be expected. Again, these storms are moving into a more favorable area for development as areas further to the east have had a bit more time to warm up from the sun. As you know, we saw the sun out for quite a while since this morning. We had no clouds, and that may seem like a good thing, but really all that's doing is getting the environment more prepped for storm development. So again, for most of Chautauqua County, you guys are out of the worst of the wind now, although you could still be seeing likely up to 40 or 50 mile an hour gusts with some of this, but some really heavy rain you can see up in the Dunkirk area, Dunkirk to right along the Route 60 corridor. Some really heavy rain falling there, and we might have a bit of hail. Let's see. We have a couple products on our weather computer here that we can take a look at. Here's the radar estimated hail size. It's not picking up on anything, so that's a good thing. Obviously, we don't want to add any other factors to it. So, according to the radar, not much in the form of hail, but still some really, unbelievably heavy rainfall in some of these areas. Again, Dunkirk, Cassadaga, right along that Route 60 corridor. And the National Weather Service now is mentioning, we have a close chat with the National Weather Service. They're mentioning now they're keeping an eye on an area just east of Gowanda, where they're starting to look at potentially some really high winds and, really that's the main threat right now is these high winds up to 70 miles an hour again. Gowanda, you guys just got really shook by this, no doubt. And next up is Springville, as you can see, and continue pushing through southern Erie County and Cattaraugus County as well. And I'm surprised they have not opted to extend this warning yet. As you can see, that's about to expire in just a couple minutes. So I have no doubt they'll probably opt to extend this warning. Probably we'll see that in a few seconds. You'll have to bear with me. Again, I'm riding solo today giving you this information, but that's what we do here at First Defense Weather. So again, the National Weather Service looking at an area, especially east of Gowanda, where we could be seeing likely the strongest winds out of this storm, again, up to 70 miles per hour. So again, this Boeing feature that you're seeing on radar here, where the wind is coming out of the west and just pushing this line with such force that we can see it with the line on radar. That is indicating some wind again up to 70 miles per hour. So I know I might sound like a broken record, but keep in mind we do have some viewers that are just joining us. And we welcome you to our special weather coverage. Again, I'm Jackson Hickey in the First Defense Weather Center. We're approaching 2:30 this afternoon now. So the National Weather Service in Buffalo and State College have issued severe thunderstorm warnings, which you can see in these orange polygons for now Cattaraugus, Southern Erie, and Eastern Warren and McKean counties. This one in Cattaraugus is about to expire, but I have no doubt they will likely extend it in the coming moments because that's going to expire if they don't extend it. The warning goes until 2:30, and we've hit 2:30 now. So, I mean, these storms are definitely still worthy of this severe thunderstorm warning. You folks in Chautauqua County, you're probably still seeing severe thunderstorm warning on your phone. Again, that's a really good way to get warnings. Make sure you have emergency alerts enabled on your phone if you can. Certainly look into a weather radio. That's one of the most reliable ways of getting warning in situations like this, when really early warning is important. And I mean, the Weather Service has done a really great job today of giving us advance warning. They issued this severe thunderstorm warning well in advance of this line. And for those of you maybe who pay attention to the First Defense weather page, you saw they issued an enhanced risk of severe weather. We really don't see that often. We usually see it maybe a couple times a year. And then there's also a severe thunderstorm watch. Actually, I'll go pull that up. You have to bear with me for a moment. A severe thunderstorm watch for really all of Western New York, just about. Where is it? There it is. So that pink area, you can see really just about all of New York State and Pennsylvania under a severe thunderstorm watch now from the from the Storm Prediction Center. Okay, and the Weather Service has extended this severe thunderstorm warning now. It looks like they've trimmed Chautauqua out of it. No, Chautauqua is still in it, but that has expired, or is about to expire at 2:30. That'll expire. And this new warning now is for eastern Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties. All of Erie County is included in that, as well as even portions of Hamburg are being impacted by that now. And the Weather Service has actually, this is not something we normally see, the Weather Service has included with this warning the possibility of a spin-up tornado. Now, I don't say that to scare you. I just want to make mention of that. I'll pull up that info again. You can see in that warning they've outlined that a tornado is possible with this, and wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. So at least that's been downgraded. I want to look at this tornado potential they're looking at. I believe near Springville is where they were looking. Yes. The National Weather Service noting along the Cattaraugus Creek, that's going to be the border between Cattaraugus and Erie counties. They're looking at this area of really weak, broad rotation, rather. That's over Springville right now, and they're looking at that potentially developing into potentially a spin-up tornado. And when I say that, that might scare you, but really, you have to understand all up and down this line that you see on radar here, it's going to produce damage like a tornado would, because these are winds that are, between 60 and 70 miles per hour. That's tornado force winds. Again, not something that you want to mess with, for sure. And that'll be for central, eastern, Cattaraugus County, far western Allegheny County, all of Erie County, and then all of Wyoming and Genesee counties as well. And then also McKean County included in that, included in a separate severe thunderstorm warning. They are included in a separate severe thunderstorm warning for really just those strong winds still. And that severe thunderstorm warning in McKean County actually extends through much of central Pennsylvania as well. That goes all the way down towards State College, Pennsylvania. And that's from the Weather Service and State College. Understand, we have all these offices of the National Weather Service. It might seem confusing to you, but the Weather Service in Buffalo covers really all of western New York, and then once you go south into Pennsylvania, that's covered by the Weather Service and State College. So it might seem confusing to you, but they all operate really the same way, and they're all just looking out for the protection of property and life as well. And this is a day for sure where you're going to want to listen to what they're saying in these warnings, because the wind coming out of a line where you can see the wind just on reflectivity, again, look at this Boeing feature, that's not something that you want to mess with, okay? That's really strong wind. We saw in northeast Ohio and northwest Pennsylvania, right before this line moved into Chautauqua County, that it was producing some really quite considerable damage in areas just off to our west. And we've yet to see if that's the case also here, where that's moved through. Again, if you're in areas where this has passed and you can do so safely, please feel free to send in a report to us, First Defense Weather on Facebook, as well as WNY News Now on Facebook, where you're watching this right now. So again, only if you can do so safely. If it's not safe to do so, please, we don't want to see a video of you being hit by strong wind. That's obviously not what we're here for. We're not trying to put you in danger just to get a report. But if you have any damage to report from this line moving in earlier, and it's safe to do so, you can take a picture, send it to us, WNY News Now and the First Defense Weather page, again, on Facebook. We'd love to see it, for sure. I'm going to take a look at some of the reports we have right now. Bear with me here. The Weather Service may have received some reports of damage. Give me just a moment, I'll see if they have any reports yet. Actually, our own Mitch Bellinger is out right now in, actually I'm not sure if he's out, but he is in Faulkner. He reported several large pine trees. They've been snapped, the branches on them, and metal roofing has been ripped off a barn and lofted. So that is not something that you want to mess with. Again, these winds, they can cause some really quite significant damage. And I know a lot of people, they hear wind, and it doesn't sound as concerning as, say, a tornado. But again, wind is wind, whether it's from a line like this or if it's from a tornado, it's going to do damage either way. We've got a lot of reports of power outs. Thank you for that. And that's something that we can expect as this line continues to move through into eastern Cattaraugus County and pretty soon into Allegheny County and Wyoming County as well. We can expect to see some really some power outages possible. And that's not only due to power lines being damaged by the wind, but also damaged by trees that come down due to the wind. So if you're near any large trees, even if they're healthy trees, you could see those come down. So, you want to really be careful about that. And bear with me. I've got to move this display over a little bit. These storms, again, are moving really quite fast. Only an hour ago, they were over in Erie County, Pennsylvania, and already we're about to see them move into Allegheny County. So moving at highway speeds, no doubt. So if you're in the warning, you do not have that much time to prepare. I know it might look like a big polygon, but that's to accommodate for the fact that this storm is moving really quite fast, and that's due in part to the strong winds that, again, you can still see are causing this line to exhibit this sort of bowing feature. If you're just joining us, I explained this a bit earlier. That's due to wind coming from the west that's just pushing this line, and you can see that reflected on the radar when that happens. So yeah, lots of reports of power outages. We've got some reports of trees down in the Jamestown area. Not a surprise. Really looking for some reports out of northern Chautauqua County as well. We had some really concerning wind that went through there. Just a little over half an hour ago now. That was some of the most concerning returns that we saw out of it. But Chautauqua County, you're pretty much out of the woods now. You should be good. So travel will be fine now in Chautauqua County. However, I would still stay inside because, excuse me, pardon me, we're still seeing some lightning for sure, and some heavy rain. Obviously, stay inside. Lightning is one of the biggest killers from weather, so not something that you want to mess with. Reports of Warren, Pennsylvania without power, not a surprise. You can actually see some of those wind reports. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew's just pulled up some of the wind reports. There's a report in the city of Warren of thunderstorm wind damage. Do we have a number on that, Andrew? If we have a wind speed or more details about that, if possible. I'll go check. We have a chat with the weather service as well. They may have relayed some reports. Yeah, tree and wires down, and that's from law enforcement. Thank you, Andrew. So again, trees. Those will not be hard to take down with wind of this velocity. You may see that the actual line has started to kind of break up a little bit. That doesn't mean that the wind is dying down or anything. As this moves into a more favorable environment, we could even see more cellular in nature, as areas a lot farther to the east have better chances of some more organized and discrete storms. So as this line starts to move east, we could see it start to break up and turn a bit more discrete. It'll take a while to do that, though. Really, that's in central and eastern New York that we're expecting to see that kind of impact. But for our area, we will remain safe from that kind of impact. I guess that's the best way of putting it. So this warning also still does have a tornado possible tag on it. That doesn't mean that there's a tornado with it, but the Weather Service has an eye on this portion of the line where some weak but still present rotation is possible. And really, we're looking at that just north of the Cattaraugus Creek, right around the triple point of Cattaraugus, Erie, and Wyoming counties. That's where we're looking at possibly some weak rotation. But the point is, it doesn't matter if there's a tornado there. The wind associated with this line is going to cause tornado-like damage to trees, power lines, and potentially even mobile homes. With mobile homes, it's not going to be severe damage, but any weaker structures, you're likely to see potentially some roof damage. We've already seen that in portions of Chautauqua County. Our own Mitch Bellinger reported that there was some metal roofing ripped off a barn. So keep that in mind as this approaches your area, that you need to get inside, away from windows, and to a safe structure. And I'd recommend that you're not in a car either. This is not something that you want to be driving through. So if you're in a car, just pull off the road and go into a business, a gas station. They will welcome you in, and you can just ride out the storm for the next really 5 to 10 minutes. Again, this is a quick moving line, so when you get impacted by it, it'll be, just like that, it'll be quick, but it'll be impactful for sure. So again, something that you don't want to be driving in, and obviously you don't want to be outside when something like this is hitting. So, get to safety for sure. Looking for more damage reports right now. We don't have many reports from the Weather Service. We have a lot of reports of power outages. Again, that's not a surprise. Power outages in Warren, one viewer reports. Thank you for that report. Again, if you send in a report, please make sure you do it safely. We don't want to see pictures or reports from people who are currently being impacted. Only send in a report if you've already been impacted and it's, we'd like to see damage pictures or power outage reports. That's the kind of stuff that we like to see. We don't want to see a video of you being affected by it. That's the last thing that we want to do, is put you in danger. Let's see. Right now, being reported a few thousand customers actually without power in Chautauqua County. National Grid customers, quite a few, at least 5,000 being reported. That's pretty impressive. Again, not a surprise. Not a surprise for sure. Since this line is going to be moving into Olean, let's go ahead and take a look at the Olean Skycam if possible. If you don't mind. Let's see. And if that's possible for you to do, that would be great. Thank you. So again, we're seeing this line potentially breaking apart just a little bit. However, that doesn't mean that the winds are calming down at all. We still have 60 to 70 mile an hour winds ahead of this. Thank you, Andrew. This is an Olean looking northwest, it looks like. And you can see some of those dark clouds about to move in. I believe I'm keyed in on here. Yeah, so some of these dark clouds moving in to the north, or from the northwest. So Olean, you'll be next to experience that really quite soon. It's on your doorstep now. You've got maybe 5 minutes at the most before this starts to impact you. So you want to start getting inside, go to a safe place, away from windows if possible, as this storm is still bringing 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Thank you for that, Andrew. Really all along this line, anywhere in this severe thunderstorm warning, indicated again by this orange polygon, anywhere along this warning or in this warning that hasn't been hit yet by this line, you can expect 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and that's not something that you want to mess around with. A lot of people maybe don't take that seriously because they maybe just take tornadoes seriously. What you have to understand is this line will have the impact that a tornado would have with the wind speeds that we're seeing, and that's being reflected in the damage that we're seeing in portions of, in areas that have been affected. Here's the Jamestown Skycam now. This is right outside our studio on 3rd Street. You can see a lot of rainfall, but the worst of the wind has long since passed. If you give me just a moment, I believe we have the Randolph camera here. Let's see. Oops. Thank you for that, Andrew. So still, according to our Randolph camera, quite a bit of rain falling. If you give me just a moment, and we can get this up here. This is in Randolph right now. Lots of rain you can see falling. The worst of the wind has passed through Randolph already, but you're still going to see quite a bit of rainfall from this system as well, and you might feel quite a bit of a cool down too after this moves through. This is all associated with the cold front that's moving through the area, and that's what's really driving these storms forward. What we're seeing, you may have read in the forecast earlier, we're really seeing a series of cold fronts today. So this is the initial front, and then we're going to see another one shortly after this. That won't bring us any really strong storms, but it's going to cool us down well below average. We could see temperatures down to near 20 tonight, and we may see parts of this turn into snow later on in the day as we get colder, but nothing like the wind that we've seen here so far. So something to keep in mind. Just looking for more damage reports now. We have photos coming in of trees down in the city of Jamestown blocking roads. Lots of pictures actually of trees down. That's exactly what we expected from winds of that velocity, that even healthy trees are going to come down from winds like this. So next ones to be impacted are going to be Allegheny County. As you can see, this line is kind of broken up a little bit. You can still see that bowing feature, though, associated with those winds. So even if you don't see that rain, you're going to still see some pretty strong winds associated with it as well. Let's see if there's any changes to this warning. Yeah, so the initial precipitation, I should say, as I just mentioned, has died down quite a bit in this initial line. But again, that does not change the fact that there's some really quite strong wind embedded in this line. So, you have to be cautious about that. So if you're near any trees, trees will be easy to take down from this wind. So even healthy trees, large healthy trees, it's very possible that they will come down. We had our own Mitch Bellinger reported earlier that metal roofing was being torn off of some barns. Obviously, that's weaker construction, but I mean that's still shows you the power that some of this wind has. It's really not something to mess around with. This is the Warren Skycam. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like we could be seeing some sunshine actually after these storms have moved through. And we can see that's likely the case looking at radar too. It's cleared out quite quickly actually past these storms. So I believe what we're seeing is some peaks of sun in Warren. Yeah, this is the Warren Skycam. Thank you for that, Andrew. Let's see what's causing that, because that's really an unusually sharp gradient that you see after these storms. You can see it just cuts off just east of Warren. That's not a radar error or anything. What's possible is we have another boundary there that's pushing this, kind of nudging these storms out of the area a bit quicker. That would be nice. Can't lie, would like to get rid of some of this rain. We've had a bit too much rain in the past day or so. Most of you, I'm sure, probably saw quite a bit of rainfall last night as well, in addition to what we just saw today. Just looking for more reports, really. The most concerning wind has dissipated, but again, these are still some really strong winds out ahead of this line, which is now going to be moving into Allegheny County. As you can see there, the precipitation really starting to dissipate, but you can still see there's that bowing feature, especially right there at the Allegheny, Cattaraugus, and Wyoming County point where they meet. Seeing really the strongest precipitation there, but all along this line, we're going to see some pretty significant wind with that. Andrew, if you don't mind, I see there's a new severe thunderstorm warning. If you could click on that and bring up the details if possible. It's taken a little while to populate on my computer. If you don't mind, if that is possible. If not, that's okay. But that is a new severe thunderstorm warning issued ahead of that line. You can see it goes from really here in Cattaraugus County, where I'm pointing, up to, as I just mentioned, the point between Cattaraugus, Allegheny, and Wyoming counties, and areas east of there. Really quite far to the east as well, past Rochester all the way to Geneva, New York. So they're warning quite ahead of this cell. If I can, give me just a moment, I'll pull up the details on this warning. See if they, okay, so they've dropped that tornado possible tag. Oh, sorry about that, Andrew. They were previously looking at an area that was a little bit suspicious, where they thought there may be rotation. That is not appearing to be an issue now. It's going to be mostly wind, as that now, again, moving into portions of Allegheny County. So you folks, really, Chautauqua County, most of Chautauqua County, you guys are fine now. You can see parts of the county are even probably seeing a bit of sunshine now. Over in Mayville, if you could pan the radar to the left a little bit, if possible. If not, that's okay. But areas over here in Mayville, as you can see on the edge of the screen, starting to clear out. That's not a surprise. Again, we're going to clear out pretty quickly today, and we will cool down as well quite a bit today, where we could see snow later on tonight as we cool down into the 20s tonight, and we'll be cold as well tomorrow. We'll struggle to reach 40 tomorrow, so, cold fronts bring us these lines of storms, of course, but they also bring us, as their name implies, cold weather. And we'll see that probably in the next couple hours, actually, as we'll cool down quite a bit. If you give me a moment, actually, I'd like to go look for some observations. Wow. Portions of New York further to our east are actually nearing 70 degrees. So that's, like I said earlier, that's why they are really seeing a much higher risk of some more discrete storms. Andrew, if you can hear me, if possible, could you bring up that SPC outlook? Here's the map of the fronts. You can see a cold front now. That's the cold front that's causing this initial line. This is actually a forecast, it looks like, of the fronts, and then this trailing one, that's what's going to really cool us down later on today in the coming hours. And that's what could bring us some snow, actually. I mean, it is April. That's not unusual for Western New York. Snow is something we normally see in April, and I guess it's a cruel April Fool's joke to see wind like this and then snow again later today. Andrew, if possible, if you could bring up the SPC outlook. Those of you who may have watched the First Defense weather page earlier, the Storm Prediction Center upgraded our area from a slight risk, that's a 2 out of 5. Thank you. That orange, you can see, that's an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5. It doesn't matter much to us now that those storms have passed, but if you know folks further east in New York State, they're expecting strong storms as well, and more discrete cells as well. They have a minimal but still present tornado risk really far east in New York and New Jersey. Obviously nothing like we're going to see, or nothing like we saw yesterday. A lot of you probably saw some of the damage that was caused in the Midwest. We won't see anything like that today. So obviously that's fortunate. That's not something that we would want to see. But for us, it's really just going to be this wind that's been coming through. Again, most of you folks in Chautauqua County are really out of the woods now. So if possible, if it's safe for you to do so, again, only if it's safe, we'd love to get some reports of damage or power outages where you are. But again, we don't want to see any reports of you being impacted by severe weather. We really just want to see. We really just want to see the effects of it afterwards, and most of it, again, will be wind. I don't think we really saw much hail. It was possible that we saw some hail, especially in the Dunkirk area when we saw, if you were watching, we saw some of those higher returns on the radar. But really, as we expected, it turned out to be just wind mostly with these storms, and it was, so far looking at the damage reports, it was pretty considerable wind as well. Taking another look at the reports, if you give me just a moment. Yeah, so there is still a potential for hail according to the Weather Service, but nothing really considerable that we're expecting. And that tornado potential that they were looking at is also gone, so that's not a concern of ours now. That severe thunderstorm warning now has been extended east of Allegheny County, so that is certainly a good sign. If you give me a moment, I'd like to see if we can get some of these damage pictures up. I know a lot of you maybe are sending pictures in on Facebook, and we thank you for that. Again, only do it if it's safe, because the last thing that we want to do is endanger your safety because you're sending in a report. So, you know, really the only place that's entirely out of the woods now is Chautauqua County. You can see most of that heavier red on a radar is now in northern County and southern Erie County. That'll move out of here pretty quick. But most of Chautauqua County, as you can see, Andrew just zoomed in there. You're probably seeing some sunshine, actually. I don't know if we have any of our cameras from that area. I think we actually lost a couple of our cameras due to power outages, which is not too surprising. Let's see. Just bear with me here. Yeah. Looking at, this is the Chautauqua Lake camera. You can see some sun peeking out now. That's, again, not a big surprise. You can actually see some blue sky as well. Those low-level clouds you might be able to notice are moving quite fast still, so we could see some, not necessarily severe winds, but strong winds that may linger after this front has completely passed. And you'll notice we're struggling to get a good feed from it. A lot of these areas have been impacted by the worst of the wind that we saw earlier, and as a result have seen power outages, so that's not a huge surprise. Looking back at the radar, obviously not much has changed, really. That initial line that came through Chautauqua County about an hour ago now, that has appeared to dissipate pretty much precipitation-wise, but the wind obviously is still there. So you folks in Allegheny County into Wellsville, you guys are going to be next for this. The wind has weakened a bit. The warnings now are showing wind really up to 60 miles per hour in the worst part of in the worst parts of the line. Ooh, lots of talking today. So, you know, we're not completely out of the woods for our friends to the east, but you guys in Chautauqua and portions of Cattaraugus County are out of the woods now. Warren County, you guys are almost entirely precipitation free now. You see Andrew is moving the radar over. You can see some of those severe thunderstorm warnings now extending into portions of central New York. So, you know, like I said earlier, this complex of storms moved through really quite quickly. When it was moving through Chautauqua County and Erie County, Pennsylvania, those storms were over the speed limit. They were moving around 80 miles an hour, so they've slowed down just a bit. The latest warning, I believe, indicates movement at around 65 miles per hour, and the wind speeds are around that as well. So still not something to mess with, but what it looks like to me on this radar image is the winds are probably a bit more isolated, but it's still hard to tell where exactly the strongest winds are. So I mean, the best advice I can give you, if you're in this warning and this line is about to impact you, I mean, just as a precaution, go inside, don't be outside. And if you're in a car, if possible, just pull off the road and ride out the storm in a business or just any public building, and stay away from windows as well, because even though the wind may have weakened a little bit from what we were seeing in Chautauqua County earlier, it's still certainly, as we were saying earlier, I mean, Chautauqua County just really took a really hard hit from a lot of this, and we're still seeing damage reports trickling in at this time. So we're going to wait for this warning to expire for Cat County and Chautauqua County, and then we'll wrap it up, because most of this is just at or below severe criteria. They're obviously still continuing these severe warnings as a precaution, and that's not a surprise, but you can see here on the radar most of Chautauqua County is out of the woods now. Warren County, you guys are completely fine now. Actually, if possible, if we could get the Warren County, or sorry, the city of Warren Skycam up, they might be seeing quite a bit of sunshine right now, if that's possible, Andrew. If not, that's no problem. What I do want to do is take a look at some of the observations we've had in the area, especially up in northern Chautauqua County. That really was some of the most significant wind that we saw. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, you can see the sun is out there now in Warren. Doesn't look like there's too much damage there, which is fortunate, at least on our camera there. But you can see those low-level clouds at the top of the camera here. They're still, I mean, speeding. So we're still seeing some wind, probably between 40 and 50 mile per hour gusts, which is still, you know, pretty high wind, but nothing like what we saw just about an hour ago, or an hour and a half or so ago. So again, much of Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties, and even a lot of Erie County now, you guys might still be getting some heavy rain, but you're really out of the bulk of the severe weather threat. I'm also assuming you're probably seeing a lot of lightning in that storm, especially up towards Springville, really between Gowanna and Arcade along the Cat Creek there. I'm sure lots of lightning, so, you know, obviously stay inside. You don't want to be the target of lightning, even if the wind has kind of diminished. You know, there are still risks there with the storms. So we're just going to wait for this warning to be lifted for our viewing area, and then we'll wrap it up. Again, if you have any damage reports, please feel free, excuse me, so much talking today. Feel free to relay those to us, and only if you can do so safely, of course. So you folks in Chautauqua County especially, we love to see some damage reports or power outage reports now that it's all pretty much cleared out of the county now. So if possible, if you can do it safely, then certainly you can relay us some reports either here on the Western New York News Now Facebook page or on the First Defense Weather page on Facebook. We'd love to see your reports. Again, only if you can do so safely. I can't stress that enough. We don't want to put you at risk just to get a report from you. So, again, actually, yeah, Andrew, that would be great if we could go through some of those reports that we're seeing there. Most of these are going to be probably trees down. There in the city of Warren, trees down on Conewango Avenue. Not surprised by that. That's reported by law enforcement. I think we'll see a lot more of those reports coming out in the next hour or so, as those are the areas that really saw the strongest winds out of this system. Comment from a viewer, how about Randolph? You folks in Randolph are just about out of it now. You can see there's still a little bit of heavy precipitation indicated by this red here, but in the next 5 or so minutes, I think you guys will start seeing some sunshine. Andrew, could you pull up that report again? I didn't quite catch that that wind report. I believe it was a media report. I didn't catch that. I think it was on I-90. Trees snapped. Yep. Okay. We did see a lot of damage reports out of northeast Ohio and northwest Pennsylvania, of some structural damage even from those winds. And if you recall, in those warnings, they indicated that it was a considerable damage threat. So unfortunately, I think we'll see that ring true in some of the reports that we get in the coming hours. And once again, if it's safe to do so, only if it's safe to do so, feel free to send us those reports. We love getting pictures, videos of any damage that you might see in your neck of the woods. So, yes, we'd love to see reports for sure. Power outages is another thing that we're watching. I know a lot of people in Chautauqua County are without power, where those strongest winds came through. We don't have any exact numbers or locations. We do know parts of Jamestown are without power, really all around Chautauqua County. Here's that wind threat. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew's showing some of the wind values that we're getting from the radar now. This is portions following the initial line. Still winds, easily around 40 miles an hour, which they're still pretty strong. I mean, nothing like, again, what we saw just an hour or so ago, but 30, 40 miles an hour, that can still carry some things around. So if you still have any loose objects out and it's safe to do so, make sure they're fastened down, or you might be running after some loose objects once these storms pass. So maybe your trash can rolled down the street. That would not be a surprise to me. Really, though, the biggest issue is tree damage and power lines. I assume we'll probably see a lot of power lines that have been downed, especially in Chautauqua County and Warren County as well, where we saw the strongest winds from that. So now we're just waiting for the warnings to pretty much expire. There's a look one last time. Maybe not one last time, but one more time at reflectivity. You can still see really some heavy rain impacting portions of southeast Erie County and southwest Wyoming County, along with places near Franklinville and northern Cattaraugus County. So that'll still be an issue for sure. But understand the bulk of the wind threat no longer really an issue for most of our viewing area. So now, unfortunately, will be the time for many of you to go out and assess the damage that you may have to your property. And once again, if you have any photos and you can safely do so. We love to see those photos. We relay a lot of them to the National Weather Service as well, and they really appreciate seeing photos as well. So if you can do so safely, again, feel free to send in reports. So for most of you, that'll just about do it for severe weather for today. I mentioned earlier, this is part of a series of cold fronts that we're seeing today, so later on we're going to see another cold front that will sweep through Chautauqua County, or really all of western New York, and with that we could see potentially some snow, believe it or not, that will end off this system, this weather system. That'll be tonight, where we could, in some areas, get down into the low 20s, maybe even the upper teens. I know, hard to believe it's April, it's spring now, but hey, that's what happens in western New York. Anders just put up the severe thunderstorm watch. That's in that pink-filled area. I won't be surprised if we see that drop for Chautauqua and Cattaraugus, as well as portions of northwestern Pennsylvania. In probably a few minutes, they'll probably decide to do that alongside the severe thunderstorm warning, which, for those of you in Chautauqua County, it may still be in effect, and you'll still probably see it on your phone, but you're not going to see any more impacts from this in Chautauqua County. So I know areas, even the city of Jamestown and Dunkirk, are still in that warning. You're not going to see any more impacts, though. In fact, I think the sun is out in most of Chautauqua County. Let me go take a look. This is what happens. Normally, we'll see clouds that'll linger. That's what it looks like mostly. We do have some peaks of sunshine, though, showing in the city of Jamestown. That's where our studios are. I mean, those of you who have been here the whole broadcast, you watched with me as the winds impacted our studio here. It really was not as bad as it could have been in Jamestown, so that's fortunate. I think when we start getting reports out of northern Chautauqua County, that's where we could see really the worst damage from the wind. I think that's really where we saw those 70 to maybe even 75 mile an hour wind gusts from that line when we first saw it bow out. Some of you may have been here when we were watching that. But for most of you, again, this will be pretty much all that we'll see. The next few days we're hoping will be rather calm. You can see that forecast on WNYNewsNow.com. We are looking at potentially more storms on Wednesday. That's still too far out to say exactly what the impacts will be, but we'll be, us at First Defense Weather, we will be watching it, and we'll let you know what we find from it for sure. So if you're not already, surely you should be following the First Defense Weather page on Facebook. It is the Southern Tier's only source of local weather. So if you're not already, again, First Defense Weather page on Facebook. And for those of you watching here on the WNY News Now Facebook page, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're not following us already, please consider doing so. And again, once this warning gets lifted, that'll pretty much do it for us. One last time, if you have any reports of damage or power outages, feel free to send them to us, only if it's safe to do so. For a lot of you, it is safe to do so now in Chautauqua and Cat counties. Even Olean now, you can see, is starting to almost clear out, really, as the bulk of the strong winds now moving out of Allegheny County into parts of central New York. again, that's where I think we'll see the more discrete storm structures as they have some better conditions. They have a lot more moisture quite far off to the east. None of that will impact us. So again, that'll really be what we see of severe weather for the rest of the weekend, actually. Again, we could maybe see some snow showers that linger tonight as we're going to get quite chilly for this time of year. And it'll be pretty cool tomorrow as well. But tomorrow will be an otherwise nice day, despite the cold. For those of you looking forward to that, we need a break now after this round of storms. I'm quite surprised they're continuing this severe thunderstorm warning. I assume they will opt to either shrink that warning, or they may cancel that warning early. I'd be surprised if they let it continue for 19 more minutes, which is when it's going to expire. Just looking for some more damage reports here from the Weather Service. Nothing really that significant, and that's good to see, of course. We don't hope for any bad damage, unfortunately. It's just, it happens. That's Mother Nature for you. But so far it looks like most of the damage, trees, power lines, nothing as serious as we could have seen. So certainly it could have been worse, and we're lucky that it wasn't worse. What is that report there? 64 mile an hour gust in Cattaraugus, and that's from the Mesonet site there. Sorry, that's from Delavan. The Mesonet site in Delavan, 64 mile an hour wind gust recorded there. I don't know if we have a reading from any of the Chautauqua County Mesonet sites. That's what I'm looking for right now. Actually, the Mesonet in Fredonia is showing clear skies now. The sun is out in northern Chautauqua County. Very few clouds there, so at least there's that. Let's see. This is what I want to go to. Bear with me here. Here's our gusts. Okay, the Mesonet didn't quite get the proper gust readings, but in the coming hours we'll start to get some better data from that, and of course damage reports as well. The Weather Service has now dropped the severe thunderstorm warning for Chautauqua County, and because of that, we are going to wrap this up now. I've been talking a bit too long today, but really thank you for those of you who have tuned in to our special weather coverage. One last time, if you're not already, feel free to follow the Western New York News Now Facebook page and the First Defense of Weather Facebook page. Give you one last look at the loop of the radar. Again, most of this is over for the vast majority of our area. So thank you again for tuning in. We really appreciate this, and hope you have a fantastic day.
This is a First Defense Weather Alert.